Alright, robots with ray guns. Anyway, Easter happened this weekend. So did the Easter Bunny. Oh my god!
The bunny came out of nowhere. Teddy was still down, his ears came off.
Yeah, the Easter Bunny was busy, dude. I don't know what else to say about that. I mean, maybe watch it one more time.
Teddy makes it by all the mascots. A bunny came out of
Theodore.
nowhere. Teddy is still down, his ears came off.
I do like that the ears came off. That was pretty funny. Yeah, good times. Alright, 1 second. I need to do something real quick. Alright, I am kind of back, I guess. Yes, I did cut my hair. You hear that? Alright, stop that. Okay, first post from Mr. Francis Wolf. Remember last year when we spent weeks arguing about whether or not the IDF would destroy a civilian hospital? Well, they definitely did now. They wanted a flood, and we gave them a hurricane. Shifa is gone, and with it, the IDF ended the operations at Shifa. I don't think so, but okay, if that's what we want to believe, then sure. Yeah, let's go with that narrative. Yeah, I mean, it's just like how they keep saying that they've cleared the north and the only thing left is for them to clear out Rafah. If that is, the truth, and I haven't looked at this in a while, but, if that is necessarily the truth, then I would like to know what's going on this page where your injury count is just continuously going up. Southern Gaza Strip, Southern, Northern. I thought they cleared out the north. What happened? Could these guys be lying to us? I don't know. But they did hit 600 today. So that definitely happened. At the very least. I think these numbers are underreported. Probably for publicity's sake. Yeah, 3,100. And another 500 severely injured. What does that mean? That's quite a lot. Moderately injured. I want to know what these things mean. If I'm missing a limb, or I can no longer see, which category do I fit into here? Anyway, I heard they're changing some things and, gonna enroll some new people into the program. Anyways, so yeah, the genocidal machine, Israel's destruction on Gaza hospitals. Let's go with Democracy Now!
The government media office in Gaza said over 400 Palestinians were killed and over 1,000 homes in the area of Al-Shifa destroyed. Army bulldozers also plowed over a makeshift cemetery in the hospital courtyard. The World Health Organization said at least 21 patients died since the raid began March 18th. Built in 1946, Shifa was once the flagship medical facility in Gaza.
Hospital's older than Israel. Weird.
Since October, Gaza's health sector has been completely decimated. Only 2 hospitals are minimally functional and 10 partially functional, according to the United Nations. The rest have shut down completely after being shelled, besieged, and raided by Israeli troops or running out of fuel and medicine. On Sunday, an Israeli airstrike hit a tent encampment outside of Al-Aqsa Martyrs Hospital in Deir al-Balah. The attack killed 2 Palestinians and injured 7 journalists. The death toll in Gaza is nearly 33,000, including 14,000 children. Many thousands of others are missing under the rubble and presumed dead. The number of wounded has topped 75,000. For more, we're joined by Dr. Hassan Abu Sitha, a British Palestinian reconstructive surgeon. He worked in Gaza for over a month as a volunteer with Doctors Without Borders, treating patients at both Al-Shifa and Al-Ali Baptist hospitals. He's joining us from London. Welcome to Democracy Now! It's great to have you with us. So you have heard the news, Dr. Abu Sitha. Al-Shifa destroyed, the largest medical complex in the Gaza Strip. Can you talk about its significance and then talk about your experiences when you were in Gaza?
First of all, if you'll allow me, Amy, I'd like to start by paying tribute to my friend and colleague, Dr. Ahmed al-Maqadi, a young, brilliant plastic surgeon with whom I had worked at Shifa during this war and at Al-Ahli Hospital. And I'd worked with him before during the 21 war and during the Marches of Return. His body, alongside that of his mother, were found today when the Israeli troops withdrew, and they had been executed by the Israeli army while trying to escape Shifa. Dr. Ahmed was a brilliant and dedicated young surgeon who had won the Humanitarian Fellowship of the Royal College of Surgeons of England. And it's critical that we remember their names and we remember their stories. And today I want to send my love to his wife and to his children, both under the age of 5, who are now left without a husband and a father, along with so many of my colleagues who we've lost. This is the second plastic surgeon who I had worked with.
I can't even comprehend losing that many people that I know.
And over 345 doctors and nurses
I don't
and paramedics
understand.
who've been killed by the Israelis.
It doesn't make sense to my brain.
Now, with regards to Shifa was 30% of the capacity of the health system in Gaza. And so the destruction of Shifa, the wanton destruction of Shifa, is a critical component of Israel's plan to genocidally make sure that Gaza becomes an uninhabitable place even after a ceasefire happens. By destroying Shifa and making sure that it is irreparable, the Israelis are trying to make sure.
It is absolutely irreparable. Like, all of this damage that has been done to this hospital, there is nothing else that can be done to it but to deconstruct it and rebuild it. But that really doesn't seem like it's ever going to happen. Back to these L's over here. I did post a video from Matt Miller earlier today on Threads. After Threads had its meltdown and seemingly banned everybody, which is kind of wacky. I thought I was banned. But anyway, like I said, anyway, back to this. Here's Matt Miller today, spokesperson for the U.S. Department of State, being an absolute demon and dismissing accounts of Al-Shifa Hospital being demolished by the IDF. I'm sorry. I included in the video. I included video and posts from Twitter that has now been verified by major news outlets that show Al-Shifa in ruins after the 2-week siege by the IDF. So this is really the conclusion of a 2-week siege that we're seeing here. They've obviously murdered over 300 people. They said that there are body parts. There are pieces of spines that they have found in the rubble. There are bodies that were flattened by tanks. Again, this is something that the IDF has done. But yeah, let's take a listen on Matt Miller and what he had to say about it.
And to save her. So I'm wondering, given this attack, given the evident lack of care for civilians, given that we can't get an update
and
on the
here on the left
for
is
instance, the now 2-month
Twitter video
of Hind, the medic sent to save her. How can the U.S. approve, any action into Rafah, a slice of land where, 1.1 million Palestinians are seeking refuge? If a targeted attack on a hospital looks like this, what would an attack in any form on Rafah look like?
Again, do not believe that this attack was on the hospital.
On Rafah look like.
Again.
I had to cut him
Do
off
not
right
believe
there.
that this attack was on the
He's
hospital.
telling you, do not believe this
Again,
attack was on the hospital.
Do not believe that this attack was on the hospital.
It certainly
Again,
looks like the attack was on the
Do
hospital.
not believe that this attack was on the hospital.
So, but why do you think, in your opinion, what value is there strategically for Israel to burn all the buildings, destroy all the equipment, destroy every last X-ray machine and everything in the hospital, and not keep it? If their fight is with the fighters.
So, there was a post by Mohammed Shehada. The Al Shifa hospital massacre is worse than the 1948 Nakba's Deir Yassin and Tanutra massacres combined. Over 300 women, children, and men slaughtered. Many zip-tied and executed. Some flattened by tanks, burned or hacked into pieces by missiles. Skeletal remains and body parts everywhere. This is twisted, man. This is so twisted. But to this gentleman's point here, I'd like to repeat his point.
Attack was on the hospital.
So, but why do you think, in your opinion, what value is there strategically for Israel to burn all the buildings, destroy all the equipment, destroy every last X-ray machine and everything? And
as we see war as Americans, right? We see that there was, like, for example, let's one of the biggest sieges, I would say, would be like the attack on, like, Osama bin Laden and retrieving his body and killing him. We didn't just blow up the entire house. We didn't blow up the entire building. We sent special forces in there to go and extract and kill, and they didn't destroy the complex. They didn't just bomb it from miles away. They didn't just launch mortars from however far away. It was a precision attack. Now, I won't say that anything that a military does like that is good, but there's an example to understand, right? The siege of a hospital and the murder of over 300 people, close to, I would think, last I saw or I heard it was like close to 400 people that are zip-tied and executed. Apparently there's videos of the executions. There are spines and body parts that have been found buried. The destruction of X-ray machines, the destruction of equipment. How is that all valid? What is the validity here? Is it just because Hamas made them do this? Is Hamas at the steering wheel? This just kind of doesn't make a lot of sense, right?
Last X-ray machine and everything in the hospital, and not keep it. If their fight is with the fighters, why must you destroy? As they left, there was no fighting when they left, just to burn the buildings and burn the things and destroy everything.
So let me just say,
why is that okay?
Let me just say,
why is that okay?
Where I'm often asked to comment on questions where there are conflicting accounts.
It's conflicting information. Okay, yeah, got it, Matt. You fucking dumb piece of shit. Anyways, back to the video. Sorry.
Sure that for years to come, Gaza does not have a functioning health system. Shifa now needs to be completely demolished and a new building and a new hospital built, which means you're looking at 3 to 5 years once the building starts. This is part of the genocidal machine. But for me, as someone who has, I reached Shifa Hospital on the 10th of October, on the morning of the Tuesday, and was in Shifa on and off throughout my whole 43 days in Gaza. It is not just the Israeli soldiers and the Israeli leaders, the genocidal tip of the iceberg that I blame. I blame the Western journalists who perpetuated the narrative that militarized the hospital as a justifiable and an acceptable target to.
I do agree with that statement. The Western media and the Western journalists that report and say things like, you know, Hamas-run hospital or Hamas-run Gaza ministry, health ministry. Those journalists that report on those, that report in those manners, are just as culpable here for the destruction of this hospital, because what that is called that's called manufacturing consent, right? So if you've ever listened to Noam Chomsky or know who he is, or of his works, is that, you know, we have to manufacture consent through the media, where, you know, we word things and we phrase things in a particular way, and I do it as well on Threads, where, you know, if you pose somebody as being evil, or as you pose a group as being terrorists, and you label them terrorists, and then you attach their name to a health ministry, then therefore that health ministry is run by terrorists. If you say that, you know, you don't differentiate between the Hamas government, which is the government of Gaza, and the IQB, which is the militant wing of Hamas. If you don't differentiate between those things, then you can freely say, oh, they killed Hamas militants, they killed Hamas members, but you're not separating the government entities or the police force that is part of the government entity from the militants that are more of an attack group towards the IDF and Israel as a nation state. You don't differentiate those two groups, and therefore in that reporting you set up the idea that as long as the IDF kills people that are associated with Hamas, then it's perfectly fine. It's perfectly okay for that to happen. You set that up in the readers' minds for later, right? You know, as a treat, I guess. And then you set these things up so that it makes it okay. And you see that, and like, especially in people that are seeking for this information to be okay. People that are, you know, either racist or unhinged, or, you know, they just believe in American democracy and anybody that we consider an ally is perfectly fine. You know, that kind of shit. But that's the manufactured consent that I'm talking about, because you have to manufacture the consent in order to come to the conclusion of the action, and the action to be acceptable. It's actually a lot more, the Noam Chomsky and all that stuff. It's a great read and a great subject. Highly recommend checking it out. But anyway, let's go on.
To these genocide enablers, these Western journalists, from the very beginning, peddled these stories that the Israelis were feeding them about Shifa being on top of this massive complex of
and that's the other thing, is there's no fucking mention of any tunnels, anything like that. The Hamas Central Command base that they have underground, there is no mention of that whatsoever. It's all bullshit.
Command and control center, and their job was to enable the genocide to take place. And the genocide can only take place if the health system is destroyed. And so their hand, blood of my friend, blood of Ahmed Maqadmi, is on the hands of the CNN journalists and the BBC journalists and the ITV journalists, who from the very beginning were peddling this narrative.
I'm looking at a comment right now from Raed Al-Nims, a representative for the Palestinian Red Crescent Society, who said many departments at Al-Shifa Hospital were set on fire. Many bodies are lying around the ground. Al-Naeem's told Al Jazeera, the situation is dire. The medical staff, some of them killed, others tortured, others detained. Above all, they've been besieged for 2 weeks without any medical supplies or even food or water. Shifa itself means healing. It's a house of healing. Also, 1,000 houses in the area were also destroyed as the Israeli military destroyed the hospital. Dr. Ghassan Abu Sita, as you worked there, can you talk about, especially since you are a reconstructive surgeon, the child amputees and what they face in there and the other hospitals you worked in?
So from the very beginning, it was obvious that half of the wounded were children, and you know, on a daily basis,
half of the population are children.
Would be between 8 and 12 surgeries, and half of them were children. And the sheer ferocity of the bombing, the fact that the Israelis were targeting people's homes, meant that a lot of these children, either their limbs were blown right off at the explosion, or were crushed beyond repair as a result of the debris and the collapsing buildings that they were taken from underneath. As the war progressed, as the health system became so overwhelmed, previously reconstructible limb became unreconstructible and required amputation to save the patient's lives from gangrene and infection. And so what we have is a process by which these children, and my estimate is that they are now probably around 4,000 to 5,000. These children are now left with disability that will change the course of their life. We know from the medical literature that each child with a lower limb prosthetic will need a new prosthetic every 6 months because their body outgrows the length of the prosthesis.
Yeah, where are they going to get that?
And will need between 8 and 12 surgeries by the time they're of adult age, because the bone grows faster than the soft tissues, or the nerves attach themselves to the skin and they can't wear the prosthesis. And so this is a lifelong trajectory
I've
of
never thought about how prosthetics work
disability,
and also how limbs work.
and of mental health scarring as a result of the deformity. To take into account, in addition to that, a lot of these children are orphaned. You know, there are 17,000 children in Gaza who've lost their parents, and many of these are wounded children.
I'm sorry, what? There's 177,000 children in Gaza that have lost their parents?
And so to go through all of this with no family to look after you is just, the legacy will be the legacy of this war. And this is a war from the very beginning. This was a war Israel declared on.
But they want to eliminate Hamas and, you know, never have terrorists again. It sounds to me like they're creating the next generation of resistance.
Palestinian children. You know, Israel wanted to wipe out Palestinian children because Palestinian children represent the Palestinian tomorrow that is incompatible with the Zionist settler colonial project. Zionists cannot envisage a Palestinian tomorrow, and we're targeting Palestinian children.
I wanted to quote from the New Yorker that quotes you extensively, Doctor, as you talk about this is the biggest cohort of pediatric amputees in history. Eliza Griswold writes, to mark the gravity of these procedures and to mourn, Abu Sata and other medical staff placed the severed limbs of children in small cardboard boxes. They labeled the boxes with masking tape on which they wrote a name and a body part and buried them. Talk more about what you did.
What?
There was one night when I was in Ahli Hospital when the Israelis had targeted a mosque
this is a
which
hard
had been
first
used by
video to watch.
internally displaced, where by 5 o'clock that morning, I had performed amputations on 6 children. And such is the aim to dehumanize these children, the aim of the settler colonialist genocidal war, to dehumanize these children, that my colleagues and I wanted to maintain their dignity and wanted to not just bear witness, but to hold on to anything that makes us and them human in the face of this dehumanizing war machine. And so we insisted that whenever there was a limb that was amputated, that it gets the right burial, and that this child's name is on that amputated limb, and that we maintain the dignity of our patient to the extent that we can.
Doctor, the Washington Post is reporting the Biden administration just authorized the transfer of billions of dollars in bombs and fighter jets to Israel. The arms package, including more than 1,800 Mk-84 2,000-pound bombs, which can be used to level entire city blocks.
2,000-pound
also
bombs.
sending 500 Mk-82 500-pound bombs and 25 F-35 fighter jets.
You gotta have something to drop them
I'm wondering if
with.
you can comment on this, especially in light of recently being elected rector of the University of Glasgow, your alma mater. It was a position once held by Winnie Mandela. You won by a wide majority, running on a pro-Palestinian solidarity platform and urging divestment from the arms trade. Can you talk about this?
So one of the things you do realize when you leave this death world in Gaza and you come out to the outside world is that you come to realize that Israel is just the tip of the genocidal iceberg.
Right.
But the United States, the United Kingdom, France, Italy, all of these NATO countries represent the remainder of the genocidal project. Israel, and these countries are not just supporting Israel, they are supporting.
Oh, come on. The United States never genocided anybody. Maybe the Native Americans and, some other people we won't talk about.
Supporting Israel's genocidal
like Iraqis.
Project. Because as the Colombian president said, they want to send the message to any other troublesome native who consider
Korea.
changing the rules of the global game by rebelling. And so when we talk about the genocide, we should not just talk about the Israelis as the perpetrators of the genocide. We should talk about the axis of genocide, these countries, these governments that are perpetuating this genocide. And we know not just this article, there's also been another article showing how much intelligence information has been passed on to the Israelis that ensured the Israelis are able to carry out these massacres. And so when we talk about the genocide, it's an American, British, French, European genocide against the Palestinian people, not of which Israel is the spearhead, but not just the sole perpetrator.
Finally, there were perhaps as many as 200,000 people protesting in London alone this weekend. That's where you're speaking from, Dr. Hassan Abusetta. Talk about the significance of this and if this is making a difference. Wasn't there also a letter from something like 150 British MPs who wrote a letter demanding stopping the arming of Israel?
Since the International Court of Justice produced its interim ruling that this is plausibly a genocidal war, and I think there's no one that has any doubt about it, the British government is now legally complicit in the act of genocide.
Right.
The universities that hold shares in BAE Systems, the arms manufacturers that has continued to supply weapons to Israel, are also complicit. And this is one of the things that we ran on as part of the campaign for rector of Glasgow University. If you own shares in an arms company that has sent parts or complete weapons to the
Pelosi,
Israelis
we're looking at
in this
you.
genocidal war, you are complicit under international law in genocide.
I mean, I think she's
All of
complicit in a
this
few ways, but
highlights
anyway.
the fact that this is a genocidal project that extends from Tel Aviv to London, to Washington, to Paris, to Rome, to all of these countries. These are genocidal partners, complicit in an attempt to wipe out the Palestinian people.
You know, this kind of like hints on the that whole, you know, "Are we the baddies?" Skit. You never realize you're the bad guy until you're the bad guy, I guess. But I'm pretty sure the people in charge definitely know that we're doing a thing for sure.
The 200,000, hundreds of thousands of people who are coming out every weekend, be it in Europe or North America, are basically saying not in our name. They will not.
And there are a lot of protests.
In the
They
acts
happen
of
very often.
genocide that their
There is a
governments are
3-day protest
perpetrating.
that is
These people
supposed to
want
end
absolve
today, I
themselves
think, in
from
Tel
what their
Aviv.
governments are doing by refusing to be
But there have
part of
been
a
several
genocidal
protests
war
there.
in the 21st
Several in
century.
London. Several in the
I
United
want to
States, all
end
over.
with Dr. Feroz Sidwa, a trauma surgeon who's currently volunteering at European Hospital in Khan Yunis in Gaza right now. We've been trying to reach him nonstop for the show today, but in case we couldn't, which we can't, he can almost never do live communication. It just doesn't work. He sent us this voice message. He's working with the Palestinian American Medical Association in collaboration with the World Health Organization. On Sunday, Dr. Sidwa sent this update as he walked from his living quarters to the European hospital.
The hospital itself is basically a displaced persons camp. I just walked out of my, I live in a little building called the Maidan. I think it means square. It's kind of an outlying area of the hospital. And just walking into the hospital. It's only about a 5-minute walk. It's just squalor everywhere. The kids running around without shoes, kids running around with sores, people actually wheeling their family members around in hospital beds sometimes. A bunch of cars that can't move anywhere because there's no gasoline. People are using them as beds and shelters sometimes. But, you can see there's no privacy, no dignity for any of these people, but they somehow maintain their humanity. It's pretty impressive to see, actually. I'm walking by the 4 latrines that people share here. I'm told there's 20,000 people on this on the hospital grounds, and they share 4 latrines. It's ridiculous. You can imagine the smell. And it's literally right in front of the hospital main entrance, which is also a giant tent city. But yeah, no, the way these people attempt to maintain some of their own dignity and humanity, they're maintaining their custom of Ramadan. They're still staying in family units despite the fact that they have been displaced multiple times each. A lot of them, this is their, leaving aside the 1948 and 1967 displacements, some of them have been displaced 3 or 4 times just from this war. Half of the medical students, their families are dead. They were displaced. Hello. Half of them were displaced from, the kids love to say hello to anybody that they can figure out as a foreigner. Half the medical students, their families, family members have died. They, and still, they're not even in medical school down here, but they come down here, and they just came to Gaza European Hospital to volunteer. And they actually run the emergency room for the most part right now.
That was Dr. Feroz Sidwa at European Hospital in Khan Yunis Sunday. Final words to Dr. Hassan Abu Sattah, who is recently out of Gaza, British-Palestinian reconstructive surgeon. Your final thoughts.
Today, as we grieve for our friend, one tries to maintain a level of hope.
Pick me
And
up
so
here, Doc.
we end
Come
with
on.
the words of the immortal Bobby Sand. We will defeat them with the laughter of our children.
Man, that's hard, dude. That's a hard video. I think it's informative to get that perspective from the doctor that's there walking into the hospital and telling you what it looks like to be there, what it looks like to live around the corner from there. That's unbelievable. We in the United States, I think we live a life of privilege, a life of luxury, compared to a lot of the world. To see people living like this, I think the only thing that we could comprehend as to what it might be like is to be homeless, which these people are. This is, hundreds of thousands of people that have been displaced, and we can't even organize ourselves well when a hurricane comes through the United States and we get displaced, or we have no power for a week or two. Being through several of the hurricanes since 2000 and living in Houston, being without power for however many days, when we had the winter storm come through DFW and not having power for 12 hours at a time, but it's just a taste of what these people are going through, not having running water. We don't know what this is like at all, but who's doing it? That's kind of the question. But yeah, let's okay, I think this story was related to it. Yeah, here we go. So I skipped around a little bit too much. I didn't have my tabs in order. Yeah, new images show the aftermath of Israel's 2-week raid on Al Shifa Hospital. Obviously, this is the before, and this is the after. They really love to use those Caterpillar D9s. Those bulldozers have some miles on them for sure.
In Israel, the IDF says it's completed its 2-week raid of Gaza's Al Shifa Hospital. Israeli forces say they arrested 500 suspects and killed 200. This comes as Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is recovering from hernia surgery and facing calls for his ouster. Thousands have been protesting in Jerusalem. They're calling for an early election, and they're urging Israeli lawmakers to reach a deal with Hamas to free the remaining hostages. Our foreign correspondent Britt Clement is in Jerusalem outside one of those protests with much more. Britt, I know a lot of the people protesting are actually family members of these hostages. What are they saying? What are they trying to accomplish? And what have you been seeing at these demonstrations?
Yeah, look, Trevor, I think the feeling is one of frustration, of anger. For many of these people, especially the hostage families, it has been nearly 6 months, and they haven't got any word on the state of their loved ones. They say there's about 130 hostages still held in Gaza, but some of them may have died, according to the people that we've spoken to. But yeah, I mean, there's people here kind of milling around right now. It's very calm. It's very tight security, but people are frustrated and they want to see Netanyahu do something concrete. They accuse him of being on his own campaign, not worrying about the state of these people. They're saying that it needs to happen now, that there has to be some kind of deal struck. As I say, frustration growing. day and day. We saw last night organizers say that protesters, there are around 100,000 of them. Tonight, it seems smaller right now, but it could grow later. It may just be getting started. But certainly, as I say, it's an environment of frustration, and people here want to see some answers, and they want to see those loved ones returned home immediately.
And we have seen some videos of the damage from Al Shifa and the raid there, Britt. What's been the reaction to those videos, and is there any expectation of retaliation for this raid?
I don't know how this guy is not pissed off. I would be extremely pissed off while this report is going on. I don't understand how people can still do their job today. This shit's affecting me mentally.
Yeah, look, I think it's going to anger Hamas's supporters. Probably around 400,000 people are left in northern Gaza. Now you see videos of those areas completely flattened. We're talking a complete destruction in and around the Al-Shifa hospital complex. The IDF deeming it a success, saying they successfully killed around 200 militants, that they confiscated intelligence documents, that they confiscated piles and piles of weapons. At the same time, the WHO says around 21 patients were killed there. That's something the IDF disputes. But certainly from those videos, which were captured by people, by locals who have returned to that area, all you can see is a flattened area, complete devastation.
Britt, while we have you, of course, Netanyahu is facing all this criticism, but he is also recovering from hernia surgery. So what's the latest on his condition?
Yeah, so doctors who were in the hospital where he was staying said that he's in excellent condition and that the operation was successful. Netanyahu has had health scares in the past. He was fitted with a pacemaker. I think he had this is his second hernia operation since he came back into power. But his message has been very clear. I'm ready to get back to work, to return to my duties. And as we saw in that part of our victory process, that will happen. He made it very clear, and that's despite the Biden administration's calls against a full operation into Rafah, saying it's going to cause mass casualties. Trevor?
Hey, Britt Clinton for us there, got it in just as the signal started to freeze. Britt Clinton, always appreciate your reporting from Israel for us.
Get out of here, George Snuffleupagus. Wasn't the best reporting, but some information. We found that there's 100,000 doing the protest. Not a lot more information on what's going on with Al-Shifa. Kind of basic information on what's going on with this guy, which I don't know if he's doing the Trump thing of trying to paint his face like orangish, or if he has like jaundice. But I don't know. Like I've seen him on American TV pretty often for some reason. Yeah, it's kind of weird. Anyways, what else have they been doing? Let's find out. Damascus attack. Iranian embassy targeted. This story from Al Jazeera, who gave me a strike on YouTube. I don't know if it was actually them or not. Maybe it was a troll. But anyway, watching the video. Let's go.
Conflict. But it
hey, hold on.
Begin with a rapidly developing story out
turn
of
this up.
Syria. Iranian state
I can't hear you.
That an Israeli airstrike has targeted the Iranian embassy compound in Damascus. Several diplomats were reportedly killed in the attack. Reuters news agency says a senior commander of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, Mohammad Reza Zahedi, is among the dead. Let's bring in our correspondent Zaina Khoda. She's
So it's kind of weird that the IDF has not admitted to this strike, even though every single news outlet that has reported on it has called it an Israeli airstrike. We have to remember they are not at war with Syria, which is where Damascus is located. This weekend, they also bombed another part of Syria, northern Syria. I'm sorry, I forget the name of the city, but very close to the Turkey border. They've previously bombed Beirut, which is also kind of further north in Lebanon. And they just seem to bomb whoever the hell they want, whenever the hell they want. You know, it's quite a peculiar situation that they're in, where they can bomb hospitals, they can bomb other countries, and there are no repercussions.
Joining us live,
Even from allies, there are no restrictions. As a matter of fact, we send them more weapons because there could potentially be a war between Israel and these other countries. You have to wonder why that's a possibility, because this cycle just seems to keep on going.
from Beirut, and this has just happened in the last few hours, Zaina. But what are you hearing? What more are you hearing about the attack and any reaction to it?
Well, this is very much a developing story. Like you mentioned, Syrian state television as well as Iranian media are reporting that the Iranian consulate was the target of an apparent Israeli strike in the heart of Damascus. Videos from the Syrian capital show a building right next to the consulate completely destroyed. And you do see as well an Iranian flag. So this in itself is very significant and could have serious implications, targeting a diplomatic mission which is supposed to be protected
Hey, thank
under
you for the follow,
international
Only Serenity.
law. Now, Iranian state television is saying that diplomats were killed in that strike. But security sources have been quoted as saying that a top-ranking Quds Force commander, an Iranian commander in the Revolutionary Guards, Mohammad Reza Zahadi, was killed in that strike. He won't be the first Iranian commander or general to have been killed in recent months. Israel has carried out numerous assassinations in recent months, targeting Iranian commanders as well as those commanders allied with Iran. But no doubt the location, the fact that the Syrian state media and Iranian media are saying that a diplomatic mission was targeted, there is still no reaction really there's still no confirmation, if you like, from Iran on whether or not Mohammad Reza Zahadi was killed. But this is definitely another blow for Iran in recent months.
Absolutely, Zaina. And as you've been saying, and as we've been reporting for certainly since the war on Gaza began, but for years before that, the Israeli government and military have carried out assassinations, have killed senior members of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps.
Yeah, the list of assassinations that Israel and the IDF and the Mossad have committed over the past decades is quite astounding. I would suggest just looking that up. It is, if not like dozens, it's got to be like hundreds of people that they have assassinated. This counts as well.
But have they ever carried out an attack such as this on an embassy building?
This is what is significant about this strike, and this is why it could have serious implications. It really crosses red lines. Now, how will Iran react? Many have said that Israel has been acting with little restraint, crossing red lines, because Iran's response has been restrained, whether it's Iran or whether it's allies in the region. You mentioned that Israel has been hitting Iranian and Iranian-linked targets in Syria for years now, preventing them from entrenching themselves militarily. But since October, since the war on Gaza, and since the group's part of the network of the so-called Axis of Resistance, which is led by Iran, opened fronts against Israeli forces to help Palestinians in Gaza, then we've seen an uptick of Israeli strikes in Syria, going after commanders, warehouses, really trying to degrade their operational capabilities. And when you take out commanders, like if indeed this is confirmed, Mohammad Reza Zahadi, then what you're doing is you're taking out.
I like that it said Reza. Yes.
Liaison officers, the people who link all these groups together. Now, if you talk to anybody in Israel, what they will say is that they believe that Iran uses its diplomatic missions, whether in Beirut, whether in Damascus or elsewhere, for meetings, for planning meetings. They use it as some sort of a headquarters. So they, in one way or another, are trying to justify, targeting this building. But no doubt this is a serious development. There's already tensions.
Where is the justification here? Was it that Hezbollah was in the building? Was it that Hamas was in the building? And therefore, the begin doctrine where you can defend yourself just because, you believe that there might be a threat to the state of Israel. They haven't stated that because they haven't admitted to this bombing.
The region triggered by the war on Gaza. How will Iran react? If it does not react, then there will be no deterrence. And this could continue. And Israel will feel that it is able to take out whether commanders in Syria or in Lebanon. Just yesterday, there was another targeted assassination in the south of the country. A member of Hezbollah killed in that strike in southern Lebanon.
That's right, Zaina. And just as you're saying, one of the biggest questions now is how is Iran going to respond? They have said many times since the war on Gaza began, and while members of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps have been killed, that they will respond. Just how difficult a position does this massive escalation put Iran in? And how
it
much
really
more,
seems like it's an escalation because they have the backing of the United States and they can essentially do whatever they want.
Spilling over Gaza's borders and into the region.
Well, no doubt, if they do not react and do not respond, then there will be no deterrence, and Israel will continue to carry out these targeted assassinations. But there are very difficult choices here. Let me give you just one example. The front, the South Lebanon, Northern Israel front. Hezbollah opened a front to help Palestinians in Gaza. It is targeting military positions of the Israeli army in the north of the country. It feels that it is putting a lot of pressure on the government because tens of thousands of people were forced to leave their homes in northern Israel. So this is added pressure on the Israeli government. Now, but if Hezbollah were to fire rockets, and it has the capabilities to do so, thousands of rockets on a daily basis, and hit Tel Aviv and hit Haifa, then Israel could also hit Beirut. It could also hit Hezbollah, areas where Hezbollah supporters live, leaving hundreds of thousands of people without homes. So these are very difficult choices, for Hezbollah or for Iran to make, because there's massive destruction on both sides. But again, there is this need for the deterrence in order for these targeted assassinations to stop. What we're seeing really is an uptick in Israeli strikes in Syria becoming more frequent. There was a strike yesterday, there was a strike 2 days ago or 3 days ago in Aleppo. More than 50 were killed in Syria. Many of them were Syrian military personnel.
It said more than 50,
seven
really?
of them were members of the Lebanese armed group Hezbollah. So Israel's strategy seems to be to try to degrade and weaken their enemies, whether it is in Syria, whether it is in Lebanon, whether it involves
it doesn't
targeting
seem like they're doing a good job if they're only picking off a few people here and there.
Warehouses. So this conflict really is on a dangerous and slippery slope. A conflict, regional tensions
We're
that
witnessing
have been triggered by the war on Gaza.
Right
and as long as that war continues, then the tensions will only escalate. And there will be no way to de-escalate this conflict because, for example, here in Lebanon, Hezbollah has made it clear they will not halt the fighting until the war on Gaza ends.
Zaina, thank you very much for that. That's our correspondent Zaina Khoda joining us live from Beirut with what we know so far. And we're joined now by Ali Vaiz. He's director of the Iran project at the International Crisis Group, and he's joining us live from Washington, D.C. Thank you very much for your time. From what we know so far, what you're hearing so far, what do you make of this attack on a building in the Iranian embassy compound in the Syrian capital, Damascus?
Well, it is possible that this was a response to an attack yesterday on a Israeli naval facility in the city of Eilat by potentially Iranian-backed Iraqi Shia militias. But even if that was the case, this seems to be a disproportionate response because targeting a diplomatic facility is akin to targeting another country on its own soil. And having killed senior commanders there, as well as Iranian diplomats, it seems to be a major provocation.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say when you mentioned the naval facility in Eilat. Naval is a military installation. This is a diplomatic facility. Our correspondent Zaina was talking about how this conflict is on a dangerous and slippery slope. Just how much more dangerous has this situation become after this latest attack?
I don't know.
Look, overall, this seems to still be a low-simmer regional war. It's not yet an all-out regional conflict, but it does appear that Israel is trying to do everything in its power to expand the conflict, or at least there are some elements in Israel who see benefits, political benefits possibly, from expanding and prolonging this conflict by dragging Iran and Hezbollah
They're just
into
itching to drag the United States into this.
At the same time, putting Israel in a really win-win situation because Israel knows Iran doesn't want to get dragged into a regional war, and so if it escalates its attacks against Iranian assets and personnel in Syria, it probably would be cost-free. And if Iran does respond and retaliate, then it becomes a justified pretext for expanding the war.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, you say that Israel knows that Iran doesn't want to expand this conflict, but it has to respond, doesn't it? Several members of its Iranian Revolutionary Guard have been killed since the war on Gaza began, and now this attack.
You know, one might question why they are called the Iran Revolutionary Guard Corps. There was a revolution, so to speak, in Iran when we, as the United States, I spelled it wrong. It should be IRGC. Stupid. Yeah, there's a movie called Coup 52? Coup 53. Hold on one second. Coup 53. There it is. If you want to know a little bit more about Iran and what happened in 1953 between Iran and the United States, you might question why I can't watch this movie here in the United States for some reason. It's kind of weird. But anyway, back to the video.
That's right, and we have come a long way from the time that Israel wanted to target Iranian assets in Syria. It would actually give some warning through the Russians so that there will be no Iranian casualties or fatalities. Now we're seeing that not only Israel is almost on a weekly basis targeting Iranian assets, but is actually targeting to kill, and now has escalated significantly by targeting a diplomatic facility. But look, Iran again, has plenty of experience with these kind of conflicts, and right now its strategic interest seems to be in trying to prevent falling into this trap that it believes Israel has laid for it. And so,
I mean, it's definitely a trap for sure.
I would bet that a likely Iranian response is going to come through its proxies or its partners in the region. We might see attacks on Israeli vessels in the Red Sea by the Houthis, or we might see resumption of attacks by Shia militias in Iraq and Syria on U.S. facilities. But it's very unlikely that Iran would respond directly.
You said that in the past that Israel would give warnings, through Russia before carrying out such attacks on Iranian installations, on Iranian assets in Syria. Why isn't that happening now? And does it have anything to do with the fact
I thought
that
Russia was a serious partner here?
Russia has been very outspoken against Israel's war on Gaza? What's going on?
Israel was a serious partner here. It's going on.
Israel's war on Gaza?
Israel was a serious partner here. What's going on?
Israel's war on Gaza?
Well, Russia's relationship with Israel has suffered since the Gaza war. There's no doubt about it. And there seems to be less deconfliction and coordination between the Israelis and the Russians. But this has more to do with Israel's own interest in trying to use the fog of war in Gaza to weaken Iran and its allies in the region as well. But also, again, this seems to be that the gloves are off right now because Israel believes that in any scenario, whether Iran responds or it doesn't respond, Israel stands to gain.
And lastly, Mr. Wyers, we've heard a lot from the United States, Israel's biggest ally, of course, about not wanting this conflict to expand. Do you see the United States responding to this latest attack in any way?
Look, the U.S. Position is that if Israel provokes a war with Hezbollah or with Iran, it's on its own. But if Iran and Hezbollah would target Israel in an unprovoked manner, then U.S. will come into the conflict to support Israel.
Is this provoked or not? How many of our children in the United States have to die here
line
because of these actions?
Through the recent attack, which again, as I said,
how many generations are we going to feed to this war?
That's Ali Wyers of the International Crisis Group. Thank you for your time.
That's a question I want to know. Did the Daily Show make a post? April 1st. That's today. Am I going to interrupt my Gaza coverage for this? Oh, he's talking about AI, and he's talking about the antitrust lawsuit in the AI. Not today. Not today, Satan. Yeah, let's get some insight from Dimitri here.
This is Dimitri Lascaris coming to you on, I think it's April 2nd, 2024.
He's in the future. It's April 1st here. Or he's playing a cruel April Fool's joke on us.
It's something like 2 in the morning. I'm at the airport in Doha, Qatar. Got off the flight from Baghdad a couple hours ago, and I'm on my way to Athens. I'm going to be grabbing a connecting flight in the morning, so I've got a few hours to kill here overnight. I decided after a month of traveling across the Middle East, it was quite an intense experience, very tiring, to go back to my house in Kalamata in the south of Greece to rest and recuperate. My trip is not necessarily over, however. I was told this morning, and this is when I decided to get on a plane and go back to Kalamata.
He's trying to go to Yemen.
That my application for an entry permit to the Ministry of Information of Yemen is still very much alive and under consideration, but that it might take another week before I have the answer of the Ministry of Information.
And he doesn't want to just go to any part of Yemen. He wants to go to the Ansar Allah control
living in a hotel room for another week was too much to bear. So I'm going home to one of my homes. The other one is in Montreal. And hopefully I'll get an answer from the Yemeni Ministry of Information soon that is positive, in which case I will go happily to Yemen. It's something I really have wanted to do ever since the Yemeni people rose to the occasion like no one else to try to stop the slaughter in Gaza. So I'll keep you posted on the progress of my efforts to get into the country of Yemen. In the interim, the main reason why I wanted to chat with you all while I'm waiting for my flight in the morning was that the experience of departing from the airport in Baghdad, I can only describe it as otherworldly. I saw levels of security at that airport that boggled the mind.
What?
And I'll try to summarize it for you as quickly as I can.
Worse than
about
the
10
TSA?
kilometers from the airport, there's a checkpoint. And they stop you at the checkpoint, and they require you to show proof that you are taking a flight from Baghdad and that you have a proper travel document.
10
Then,
kilometers. 10
if they're satisfied,
kilometers
they
out.
let you proceed. You go down the road further towards the airport. About 2 or 3 kilometers later, there's another checkpoint.
What?
At that checkpoint, you are required to get out of your vehicle with your baggage, enter a small building on the side of the road, and put your belongings through an X-ray machine and go through a metal detector.
The TSA before the
If you pass that
pre-TSA.
test, they then allow you to proceed down the road, where you encounter a third checkpoint.
What?
At that checkpoint, you have to get out of the car with your luggage again. This time, they subject your luggage to inspection by a bomb-sniffing dog. So then, if you pass that test, you get back in your vehicle with your luggage, and
I'm just gonna say, I think the United States believes that somebody's gonna drive one of these Boeing 737s into one of the camps that we have there. Not bases. They're not bases. They're camps.
You arrive at the terminal. You get off the car.
Yeah.
And before they allow you to enter the terminal, you have to be inspected again, you and your luggage, by a bomb-sniffing dog. If you pass that test, you can enter.
Bomb-sniffing dogs have like an 85% failure rate, by the way.
The terminal, except that there's another X-ray machine and metal detector at the entrance to the terminal. So you go through that thing. Now you're in a kind of large lounge area, but you can't yet access the check-in gates. They are segregated from the lounge area that you enter into when you actually walk through the exterior door into the terminal. So to get to the check-in gate, what do you have to do? You have to go through another metal detector and put your baggage through another X-ray machine. And they check your passport. Then you get into the line, waiting to check in, and as you're standing there waiting to check in, someone comes up and checks your passport. Again. Then you get to the check-in desk, and of course, as is customary, they require you to show your passport. Once you've checked in, you have to go to immigration before you go through security to enter the area where the boarding gates are. And of course, at immigration, following check-in, they check your passport. Then you go through the standard security review, where they have X-ray machines and metal detectors, and somebody yet again checks your passport.
Dog, you're gonna be fucking Incredible
So now
Hulk
you're
with all the
beyond
radiation you're
security.
getting here.
You're looking for your gate. You find it. Problem is, you can't get to your gate. You can't actually board your plane without going through yet another X-ray machine and another metal
Who the
detector
fuck came up with
and
this?
another inspection of your passport. Now you're in the boarding lounge, and they call you because the bus has shown up to take you out to your airplane, and before they let you onto your bus, they look at your damn passport again. Then you get to your plane, and you're walking up the stairs, and when you enter the aircraft, they look at your damn passport again. And then when I finally got to my seat going through all of these various layers of security, it just occurred to me, it hit me like a ton of bricks. You know, they could check your passport 20 times instead of 10.
Right.
They could run you through an X-ray machine and a metal detector 10 times instead of 5, or whatever the hell it was. That's not going to make the Iraqi people any more safe than they already are. No number of passport checks and passages through X-ray machines and metal detectors and inspections by bomb-sniffing dogs is going to appreciably improve the security of the people.
I don't think this is a security theater. I think this is a paranoia by the United States. That's my firm belief. But, because, you know, the TSA in the United States is security theater. They make you think that, you know, we're safe because they have some person checking your shoes. But that shit doesn't matter. The TSA has like a 90% failure rate when they've been tested by the FBI. So this is just overkill. For what reason, I'm unsure. But yeah, it seems like it's just paranoia. Probably another thing by the United States to say, hey, you better do this or else we're going to bomb you again or something.
Iraq. What will improve dramatically the security of the people of Iraq is for the damn American occupier to get the hell out of the country.
That would help.
And that's the one damn thing that the Americans will not do. Anyways, since I had some time to kill here,
yeah, we got something like a dozen bases
still reeling from
in
this
Iraq,
insane
but don't tell
security
anybody.
Protocol. I decided to do a little research into who's managing the security at that airport, because my guide and new friend, Hussein Baroud, whom I interviewed while I was in Baghdad, he's the elected representative or spokesperson of the Iraqi movement for the Belt and Road Initiative. And if you haven't seen my interview of him, I suggest you do. It's on YouTube.
They were great videos. Highly recommend.
On my website, it will be shortly, because he has a very interesting perspective, and one you're not going to hear in the Western media, about what is happening in Iraq today and how they got there. Anyways, he drove me to the airport, and as we were going through this morass of security, he said, guess who runs the airport?
The United States.
I said, who? He said, the British.
The British?
The British. You mean the ones who participated in the illegal criminal war of aggression against Iraq? The one that killed hundreds of thousands of Iraqis, perhaps over 1 million of them? Yeah, the British. So, as I had nothing to do here, waiting for my flight to Athens, I did a little research, and in fact, it is the case that up until recently, the notorious British security company G4S had the contract for the security.
G4S? Oh my god! I know who they are.
The management of the security at the Baghdad airport, except they were ousted. That's the word that an online publication that covers corruption used. There's a December 2023 article which talks about this. They were ousted for unspecified reasons, and they were replaced by another Western company. But this one is Canadian. And the remarkable thing about this Canadian company, it's called Business Intel, is that its owner, who's an Afghan Canadian, whom I've never heard of before, his name escapes me, appears to have no prior experience. I shouldn't say owner, he was identified in the article as the CEO. He runs the company.
Okay, I know G4S because they're in Canada.
He may also be the owner, but I'm not sure that that's the case. Anyways, he appears to have no prior experience in managing security at airports. In fact, it's not clear that he has any experience whatsoever in security. And all of this came to light when he stopped paying his employees.
What?
This December 2023 article says, quotes various employees saying, we haven't been paid in months. And not only have we not been paid in months, but when he's shown up at the airport and we've consulted with him about how to deal with various securities issues, he goes on Google and looks for the answer. There just seems to be no end to the abuse and exploitation that Western governments and corporations are heaping upon the people of Iraq. And so I say it again, the conclusion that I reached after my brief but enriching stay there with this noble people is that the greatest favor that we can do to them, the greatest service that we can render, is to force our governments and our militaries and our corporations to get the hell out.
Can we get out of Iraq already?
People determine their own
and
future
the UAE,
according to their
and
own
Saudi Arabia,
aspirations.
and Syria.
It's Dimitri Lascaris on April 2nd, 2024.
And Yemen, and Djibouti, but apparently not. No, we can't do any of that. Oh man, I'm getting tired. But yeah, let's talk about who else. Not those dudes, but these dudes. Not you dudes. Definitely this guy though. Who else are they bombing? Weird, peculiar situation. I'd like to think that killing foreign aid workers from the US, UK, Poland, who are feeding the starving, would be a serious incident. But unfortunately, Israel is allowed to kill anyone they want, quote unquote, is an important rule in the rules-based international order. That international order that doesn't seem to apply to Israel. Here is Zayomi and Chef Ali's latest video that shows them cooking meals for Gaza's hungry. And if we click on this video, thank you. This is the World Central Kitchen. They were killed today by Israeli warplanes in Gaza in disregard of international laws, echoing the daily killing of Palestinian civilians in Gaza over the past 177 days. Yep, this is definitely them. I will not show their bodies because they are confirmed. They had their passports on them. That is very awful, kind of infuriating. But yeah.
Hey, this is Zomi and Chef Olivier. We're at the Genocidal kitchen, and we've got the mise en place. Tell us a little bit about it, Chef Ali.
To cook the rice, so we have all the spices to boil the water. Be ready for the boiling water inside the rice. This is the stir fry with oil, with stir fry onions. We have the spices.
It's not hard to cook a very delicious meal.
The rice, we add the water. The water is aromatized with these spices, this mix of spices. There is the black lemon, there is some chili, there is 7 mixed spices, bay leaves, salt, pepper, and tomato paste.
Indeed. So this is the beautiful, fragrant, aromatic rice that will be served today from Genocidal kitchen. Thank you.
Yeah, that's. I'll have to remember their smiles and not their faces of their bodies. But you know, we do have unhinged people in the comments. May they rest in peace. I hope their governments will think long and hard about Israel's behavior after this. I do agree with that statement. Somebody tagged a bunch of news channels as if they're going to read this. Their interns will not. However, this is probably just the first batch of just unhinged replies. They probably thought they were under the protection of international law. However, there is a huge problem here. Israel doesn't recognize such a thing as international law. That's pretty fucked up. I don't know if he's on the anti or pro-Israel side. But I'll just say that, you know, it goes down further, and we do see things like this, where, you know, people find their bodies, and then the postings of their bodies. Absolutely terrible stuff. I can only imagine what else is in the comments. I would imagine somebody's going to say, blame this on Hamas, something like that, right? But also, you know, you would say, oh, these videos aren't confirmed. They're not going to, this isn't real stuff. You know, what else is in here? I don't know. Somebody with a red name, and I'm not going to read that. However, from Reuters, at least 5 employees of the World Central Kitchen non-governmental organization, including foreigners, were killed in an Israeli airstrike on Gaza. The Hamas-run Gaza government media office said, do I need to go back to this fucking video over here and talk about
food or water?
You know, manufacturing consent here. I feel like I do. But here's the truth from Moody BXX. From Chef Jose Andreas of the World Central Kitchen, regarding the aid workers brutally murdered by the IOF terrorists and the Israeli regime in Gaza today, their blood is on Joe Biden. I can't disagree. Because their clearly marked convoy was bombed by American bombs. I do agree. From Chef Jose Andreas, today the WC Kitchen lost several of our sisters and brothers in an IDF airstrike in Gaza. I am heartbroken and grieving for their families and friends and our whole WCK family. These are people, angels I served alongside in Ukraine, Gaza, Turkey, Morocco, Bahamas, Indonesia. Chef Jose Andreas, I highly don't recommend himself going back into Gaza. I feel like there is a target on his back, and this is just the beginning. But back to his statement. They are not faceless. They are not nameless. The Israeli government needs to stop this indiscriminate killing. It needs to stop restricting humanitarian aid, stop killing civilians and aid workers, and stop using food as a weapon. No more innocent lives lost. Peace starts with our shared humanity. It needs to start now. We are aware, so this is from the World Central Kitchen handle, but previous to his post, where they said, we are aware of reports that members of the World Central Kitchen team have been killed in an IDF attack while working to support our humanitarian food delivery efforts in Gaza. This is a tragedy, and they do go on from there. Yeah, I think it's plain and simple. There is indiscriminate bombing that is going on in Gaza. It doesn't matter if you're an aid worker. It doesn't matter if you're a medic. That was one thing that this guy talked about in the close the window. The Hind story, where the child called for help, and then an ambulance was finally sent. Not only was Hind killed by IDF bombs and gunfire, but the ambulance was also bombed. And those workers were killed. So it seems like it doesn't matter if it's a hospital, if it's another country, if it's aid workers. It really doesn't matter to these guys, because they will bomb the shit out of you, and you will die. Yeah. All right. Well, here's the Al Jazeera story. I'm getting pretty tired, but I'll run this story, and if there's anybody that knows about being bombed, it would be Al Jazeera. When their AP building was bombed 2 years ago, and the Al Jazeera offices were in the AP building, it was leveled. So it seems like Israel has been trying to shut them down for quite a while now.
Israel's parliament has passed a law which could allow a potential shutdown of foreign broadcasters in the country, including Al Jazeera. The Knesset voted overwhelmingly in favor of the law, which Israel has been pushing since the beginning of its war on Gaza. The law allows Israel to shut down any broadcaster if it deems its content threatens national security.
So any broadcaster that is just said to be Hamas, I guess, right? Everybody's Hamas. Any broadcaster that turns out to be suspected to be Hamas, we have to shut them down and kick them out of the country. You know, a lot of people will say that authoritarian figures are dictators because they limit the amount of media in their country. What's this example, I guess?
Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu posted on X saying Al Jazeera actively participated in the October 7th massacre and incited against Israeli soldiers.
Al Jazeera did the Al-Aqsa flood themselves. Got it.
He says it's time to remove the mouthpiece of Hamas from our country and called Al Jazeera a terror channel. Netanyahu says he intends to take immediate action to stop Al Jazeera's activities in Israel. Well, the US State Department has responded to the Knesset vote, saying that it supports Al Jazeera.
We support the independent free press anywhere in the world, and we think the work that the
Do you really, Matt?
Independent free press does is important everywhere in the world, and much of what we know about what has happened in Gaza is because of reporters who are there doing their jobs, including reporters from Al Jazeera. I'll say, just with respect to Al Jazeera, obviously, I think it's well known that we've not always agreed with all of Al Jazeera's coverage, but it's a media organization that we engage with. I've done interviews with Al Jazeera. Other people from the department have done interviews with Al Jazeera. So what we will continue to make clear is that we support the work that the Free Press does.
Quite a note to end on there. Well, what else is going on there? I don't know. The Palestinian Authority forces sneaking into Gaza, supposedly. Hamas's big charge on rival Abbas-led faction. That's weird. Palestinian Authority forces sent forces into Gaza under the guise of aid trucks. Oh no, dude! What is going on here? Those are kids. Those are children. I have to take a snapshot of that. Thank you. Pro-West Palestinian Authority hits back at Hamas, says Hamas claims the Palestinian Authority sent security men disguised as aid trucks escorts into northern Gaza. This plays into another story that I've already heard, where they want the they don't want Hamas to be running the Gaza port. They want somebody else to be doing it. And if it's not going to be Israel, well, then it's going to be somebody that's controlled by Israel. Hamas-affiliated Al-Aqsa TV reported 6 members of the Palestinian Authority were arrested. That's kind of crazy. The suspicious security force that entered yesterday with Egyptian Crescent trucks coordinated its operations entirely with the Israeli occupation forces. Wow. Dude, it's always your own guys. It's always your own people, man. It really is. Well, of course they're gonna deny it, dude. Come on. No, sir, you are wrong. Yeah, seems like it ever since. So you have to recall the history of Gaza and remember that, you know, in the elections, Hamas won over the Palestinian Authority, over Fatah. They essentially kicked Fatah out of the Gaza Strip in the early 2000s. And since then, the Palestinian Authority and Fatah, which is their military wing, have mostly inhabited the West Bank, which they have worked with Israel to, it seems like, gladly hand over the West Bank to Israeli settlers. So that is a small history lesson. Yeah, Civil War. Now, there's two perspectives here. You could say I'm with Fatah, PA, and say we should be working with Israel, and then look at what the Swiss cheese that the West Bank has become. Or you could say I'm with Hamas and say, you know, Gaza has become a prison basically, and deteriorated to the point of where it is now. I don't know. I don't know that I can come to a conclusion live, but I would imagine fighting for your freedom or for the ability to gain the acknowledgement of the world is something better than slowly dying the death of 1,000 cuts. Yeah. Really, the U.S. had urged the PA to regain control of Gaza post-Israeli withdrawal. I will also screenshot that. The United States post-war Gaza plan was rejected by both Israel and Hamas. The United States was like, okay, well, what if we just had the PA run Gaza? Do you guys like that? And Israel was like, no. And then Hamas was like, not at all. You wonder why these negotiations fail. I think I said enough here. This video has been very informative. Good work, good stuff, guys, good stuff. Thank you, Hindustan Times. Do I want to get this video clapped and watch Jon Stewart, or do I want to watch Jon Stewart on another day? I think I'll watch him on another day. Where's NBC News? Did they have anything good today? I don't remember. What do you got?
Breaking news tonight, the major ruling in Florida on abortion rights. Florida Supreme Court saying the state's 6-week abortion ban can take effect in 30 days, but also ruling that voters should have the ultimate say by putting the abortion issue on the ballot in November. The growing national battle. Also tonight, the SUV ramming a security gate at the FBI's Atlanta field office. The driver in custody. What we're learning. The spring storms and tornado threat across the country, and is April's snow headed for New England? Al Roker is here. The significant progress in the race to reopen the Port of Baltimore after that massive bridge collapse. The temporary fix to get ships in and out. The major escalation in the Middle East, Iran accusing Israel of striking its consulate in Syria and killing 2 top generals. Convicted double murderer Alec Murdaugh back in court, sentenced to 40 more years for stealing from his clients. Why some of his victims say they forgive him. A lawyer for NFL star Rashee Rice says he's cooperating with police after reports his car was involved in a major crash.
Bro, what do you mean your car was? There is video of this man getting out of the car on 75. It's a US 75. And walking towards somebody else's car, I guess. And then they leave.
Authorities asking for
guess
help
if you got money.
IDing the man in this video. And he's
The world
young
is your
and
oyster,
driven,
at least the US
gamer
is.
turned NASCAR star who just claimed his first major checkered flag.
This is NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt.
Good evening and welcome. Breaking tonight, a pair of closely watched abortion rulings late today by Florida's Supreme Court. The conservative majority panel opening the door for a ban on abortions after 6 weeks of pregnancy, a point at which some women don't know they are pregnant. But in a separate ruling, the court will leave it to Florida voters to decide whether to restore abortion rights when they go to the polls in November. Senior legal correspondent Laura Jarrett starts us off tonight.
Tonight, Florida's highest court paving the way for a strict abortion ban to go into effect, while also sending the issue back to the voters this November. The conservative court finding the state's constitution does not protect abortion rights, which will now allow Florida to ban the procedure as early as 6 weeks into pregnancy, before many women know that they're pregnant. That law, signed last year by Republican Governor Ron DeSantis, now set to go into effect in the next 30 days.
We are here today to defend those who can't defend themselves.
This
It's all
bonehead.
likely to
Why is
usher
he
in a
still
sea
in the
change,
news?
not only in
Yeah,
Florida,
I
but
see why
throughout
now,
the
right.
South, as the state has seen a surge in patients from surrounding states that have passed stricter bans since Roe v. Wade was overturned. But at the same time, the court today also approving key language for a constitutional amendment protecting abortion rights after advocates gathered enough signatures for voters to decide the issue this November.
I feel like women should not be told what to do. I don't think they should have abortion at all.
If passed, it would guarantee the right to abortion before
They-
viability,
you are they.
which is usually around 24 weeks, or when necessary to protect the patient's health.
And Laura, it's not just Florida that could have abortion on the ballot in November.
That's right, Lester. Several different states are considering ballot measures like these. Some they've already succeeded. The advocates has succeeded getting them on the ballot. But in the meantime, in the short term, Lester, this abortion ban, this 6-week abortion ban, is going to start in the next 30 days in Florida.
All right, Laura, thanks very much. Just developing tonight, a driver near Atlanta ramming his car into the front gate of the FBI office
Oh,
there.
yeah, that did
Blaine
happen today.
Alexander reports he is in custody.
FBI, you better watch out.
Tonight, a major security scare at the FBI field office in Atlanta when agents say a man driving this vehicle used it to try and force his way inside.
We can confirm a person rammed into the FBI Atlanta's front gate shortly after noon today. He was not associated with this facility.
The FBI says the driver tried to get past the security checkpoint by following an employee's vehicle inside, but the security barrier engaged and the suspect crashed his car in.
Have these guys learned nothing from Hezbollah at all? This is what happened. I don't know what this guy was trying to do, honestly. All I'm saying is Hezbollah made a whole fucking barracks disappear. And the Republicans have the dumbest fucking resistance group ever.
To it. Officials say he then jumped out of the car and tried to run toward the building, but only made it a few feet before being tackled.
Several of our special agents who were passing by apprehended him. His motives at this point are not known. The suspect was taken to a local area hospital where he's being evaluated.
The suspect was never close to actually getting inside of the building, officials say, and note it's too early to tell whether this was a potential act of terror. Tonight, FBI officials are not releasing the name of the suspect and say no weapons were found inside the car.
That's the Buick.
And tonight, officials are considering both state and federal charges. Lester?
Blaine Alexander, thank you. Tens of millions are in the crosshairs of severe weather tonight and tomorrow in the Midwest and South from the same storm that caused major flooding and surprisingly heavy snow in California over the weekend. Al Roker is tracking and foresees a dangerous situation brewing.
In fact, Lester, it is developing right now, a volatile situation. We have 8 million people under tornado watches from St. Louis, Kansas City down to Oklahoma City, and
I'm gonna watch this.
Vehicle crash in Dallas that may have involved one of his cars. Priscilla Thompson now.
One of his cars? He was in the car!
For the first time since this terrifying crash, Kansas City Chiefs wide receiver Rashee Rice is responding amid reports that his car may have been involved. His attorney writing in a statement that Rice is cooperating fully with authorities and will take all necessary steps to
figure out which of his homeboys are
situation
going to take the fall for
responsibly,
this shit.
adding his thoughts are with everyone impacted. The response comes 48 hours after this 6-car crash, caused, police say, by this Lamborghini and Corvette speeding down the expressway.
The major accident on the freeway.
This is why you should have a dash cam.
Central Expressway northbound.
Everybody.
Dramatic dash cam video shows the moment police say the drivers lost control, one car slamming into the center median as the other appears to spin out.
What's the
Kayla
center
Quinn
median?
says she and her 4-year-old son were headed home after a day at the zoo when they were among those hit. This could have ended way worse, she wrote on social media. Both cars hitting me, yet me and my baby walked out untouched. Police say all injuries were minor, and the occupants of the Lamborghini and the Corvette all ran from the scene. Moments after the crash, a bystander captured this video.
You guys all right? Yeah, that's it. Where are you guys heading? You guys all right? Yeah.
Where are you guys heading?
You guys just gonna leave it?
Tonight, the NFL not commenting, but the Chiefs president telling KCMO Talk Radio this.
We'll get to the bottom of it. We'll gather the facts and then we'll react accordingly.
Dallas police are not saying if Rice was involved in the actual crash, and they're asking for the public's help in identifying the men in the video. Lester?
Priscilla Thompson, thank you. In the Middle East,
We know
Iran
who the
is
men
claiming
are.
tonight that an Israeli airstrike in Syria killed some of its senior commanders at an Iranian diplomatic building in Damascus. Raf Sanchez has more.
Tonight, the fiery aftermath of what appears to be a targeted strike in Syria. Smoke and flames billowing from an Iranian diplomatic building in Damascus. Debris scattered on the streets. Iran says the blast killed 2 generals and 5 officers from its Revolutionary Guard, and it's blaming Israel and vowing revenge. Israel not commenting. Iran is a primary backer of both Hezbollah
No comment, only bombs.
and Hamas, as fears grow of a widening conflict outside Gaza, where today Israel announced the end of what it called a 2-week counter-terror raid on Shifa hospital, leaving behind a trail of destruction. Israel says Hamas used the hospital as a base.
You know, I've noticed that the at least NBC mainstream news has not been favorable to Israel in its more recent reports. In its initial reports for the last 6 months, probably, you know, being a little propagandist, if not mostly propagandist. Yeah. Recent reports about fair.
and that Israeli commandos killed 200 militants and captured senior Hamas operatives. The U.S. saying Hamas is hiding among civilians.
Hamas should not be operating out of.
Never mind. He said 200 militants, which is just not confirmed.
But as we've also said, we do not want firefights in a hospital.
The World Health Organization says.
So then, what do you want?
At least 21 patients died during the Israeli siege. And Gaza's Hamas-run health ministry said they found bodies of civilians decomposing in the dirt. Among them, Dr. Ahmed Makatma, according to his family and Palestinian media.
The situation in Gaza is still catastrophic.
A dedicated surgeon, his colleagues said he refused to leave his patients behind.
He opted to stay in northern Gaza, in Shifa and Al-Ahli, to look after his patients.
And Israel's military saying tonight an Iranian-made drone hit an Israeli naval base. There were no casualties, but Israel calling it a very serious incident. Lester?
Raf Sanchez, thank you. In 60 seconds, the $20 an hour pay hike for fast food workers in California. But what will the impact be on meal prices? Next.
You fucking son of a bitch. If the $20 an hour fast food minimum wage is the reason for prices of food going up, why does it already cost $12 for a fucking number one? You fucking bunch of liars.
$20 an hour as a new law took effect in California. It's meant to offset the high cost of living, but it may also mean you'll pay more for your burger. Here's Liz
You
Cruz.
dumbass. Stop reporting. Stop repeating
For
the
3
signs.
years, Anisha Williams has worked at Jack in the Box, struggling to make ends meet as a single mom in high-priced Los Angeles.
They need to know that their workers are struggling. Some workers are homeless.
That's why today marks a moment she's been waiting for. Anisha is among hundreds of thousands of fast food workers across California getting a raise.
We need this. We need this so bad.
After years of protests, restaurant chains with more than 60 locations nationwide must now pay their California employees at least $20 an hour.
So you have
it's one
to
of the
have
highest
60
minimum
locations
wages
or
in the
more
country, and the first time
to get
state
this sad-ass
lawmakers have
cheeseburger.
mandated a minimum wage for just one industry. Supporters say it's time for the billion-dollar corporations to pay a living wage.
How's it going?
True.
But many franchise owners, like Jessica Diambra, who runs 11 McDonald's around LA, say the law puts an unfair strain on their business.
No, she only has 11 McDonald's. How's she gonna make any money?
Is already operating on slim margins.
Do you feel targeted that it's specifically
You fucking motherfuckers. How many employees work at a McDonald's? So 80 to around 100 employees. 50 employees work at each location. Okay, so let's just grab the median from that, right? Let's do some quick math, some boy math, I guess. Some McDonald's math. Let's say you have 70 employees who are going to make $20. So maybe you were paying them $12 an hour, $8 more an hour, times how many hours in a week? 40, 80. So I'm doing morning shift, night shift. 16. Does McDonald's close? I don't know. It probably closes for a few hours, right? So I'll say times we'll just say 16 hours a day times 7 days a week, 896. Let me just confirm that. So got 70 employees times 4. That's how many dollars I'm gonna have to pay them extra each one, times 16 hours in a day. Oh, there we go. Times, I did plus, times 7 days. $31,000 is what that equates to each week that they will be paying more. If your restaurant cannot operate with the equivalent of $31,000. Your multi-million-dollar chains of restaurants cannot operate on such slim margins. You are bad at business.
For fast food?
Yes, and I think people just don't realize that. They see this big McDonald's.
Oh wait, and she owns 18 of them. I'm sorry, times 18. $500,000. You bonehead. Figure it out.
And just think, oh, they've got all the...
And that's a week. That's each week. This is how much money she's been pocketing each week from not paying these people a fair wage. Times 52. Fuck you.
the money in the world, and it's just that's not at all how it is.
McDonald's, Chipotle, and Starbucks already saying they plan to raise prices to offset the rising labor costs. Pizza Hut preemptively laid off 1,200 delivery drivers like Michael Ojeda.
I was very frustrated. A lot of us got our jobs taken from us.
It's just retaliatory actions.
8 years.
What's the point of the raise if you don't have a job anymore?
Experts say the law may also lead to shorter hours and expedite the push to automation, replacing people with technology.
What's the point of a raise if you don't got a job anymore? That's the point of this shit. That's why they're firing people, to make you mad at the other people that still do have a job, so you can become a reactionary person and then in turn hate what the government is doing to make people's lives better. Rather than understanding that it is the company that screwed you over and fired you, because they could have fired you at any point in time. They just chose now to do it. Even after 8 years, you have no guarantee of an employment. You can only be guaranteed to be fired whenever the fuck they want to fire you.
Economists often say there's no such thing as a free lunch. Does that apply here?
It really applies here. But we forget that somebody's paying for it somewhere.
But for Anisha,
Somebody's
as
paying
the
for
cost
it
of living
somewhere.
rises,
Blame this person.
she
Getting all
says
the
a
money.
few extra dollars.
She's
goes
a
a
millionaire
long
now,
way.
dude.
I'm praying that this $20
She's gonna make $40,000 a year.
will
What a
actually do
millionaire.
something for me and my children.
Liz Kreutz, NBC News, Los Angeles.
Up next for us tonight, colleges' warnings over financial aid chaos. Could it impact thousands of students' ability to go to...
I could do a whole fucking 2-hour bit on why people aren't paid properly. It goes into the Manufacturers Association. The Manufacturers Association of America. The NRA, the National Restaurant Association in the United States. There's a lot of lobbying groups that have a lot to deal with the ideology that we have here in the United States. I don't have the time. I've been here for 2 hours now. I am tired. I don't. That's fine. Colleges, race car driver. That's nice. Cool. That's it for me. I'm gonna cut it off before 2 hours. I think I'm good. Pretty interesting stories. Not surprised by a lot of the IDF actions that we've seen tonight. But maybe I'll be on Wednesday. I don't know. I might just wait until Thursday and Friday. I think those are funner times. All right. See you later. Have a good one. Thank you if you came by.